Alrighty, we're going to give everybody about another minute to join, and then we will hop right in. As always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the Q&A section.
Yes. We will try to get the answers to your questions. If not, we can always follow up with you guys offline. Oops,
Yeah.
I did not raise my hand. So have no fear if we don't get to them on the call, we will follow up with you. So just
Definitely.
he knows.
Perfect.
Have
Alrighty. I think we're ready to hop into things. Well, welcome. For those of you who are new to AddEvent, this, you know, entire webinar is pretty much going to take us through how you as a marketer can best use our tool to not only create your events and calendars, but also share them with a wider audience. And also just get familiar in our tool and kind of get comfortable with everything that we have to offer. So let me perfect. So, hi, like I said, we're at event. Um, with our tool, there's a lot that you can do, especially as marketers. I feel like it's probably because we are marketers that we get so excited about this side of things. But, the more conversations we have, the more we hear about the different ways people are utilizing our tool. Specifically, like, in today's day and age, I feel like almost in a post-COVID world, we have a full mix of like in-person, hybrid, virtual events going on, and there's a lot of noise out there. So being able to find different ways to share your events with people is a key, to getting people to actually show up. Just like everybody taking their time today to show up to this webinar. Obviously, if it hadn't been on your calendar, I'm sure it would have been hard to remember to hop on and join us. So there are tons of different ways that you can use our tool. Just a few, naming them off the top of my head, is like sharing some upcoming events with add calendar links in your email campaigns, embedding a calendar with all of your events right on your website so people can see exactly what you have going on without ever having to leave your website. And then also encouraging people to subscribe to your calendar so that your events show up on their personal calendars and they can see stuff as you've added it in real time. So these are all different elements that we're going to dive into a little bit further. So stay tuned. Of course, allow us to introduce ourselves. I'm Sam. I am the content specialist here at AddEvent, and Marissa, I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Gorgeous. I'm Marissa. I do our product marketing. But Sam and I really touch more than just content and product marketing. So any marketing stuff, really, we are secretly behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Yeah. As all I'm sure you marketers can relate to. It's never
Yes.
just as straightforward as your title. You kind of do it all.
Mhm.
Um, Today, just to kind of get everybody on the same page, our agenda is to get you guys comfortable in the AddEvent dashboard, show you around, maybe uncover some things that you didn't know you could be doing, and then also help you to start creating events. If you haven't done it already, we'll walk you through the process of creating an event, all the different ways you can customize that, and then also talk a little bit about calendar marketing and how you can utilize our calendar tool to get people to engage and essentially grow your audience on a brand new marketing channel. So, without further ado, let's dive into the app. Marissa, do you want to share your screen? Because I think
Yes.
okay, perfect.
I can share mine. That's probably easiest. Let's just make sure that I share the right screen. It isn't,
Great.
or how many people have shared the wrong one. I cannot be alone. All right, gorgeous. So if you have not yet logged into AddEvent, this is what our AddEvent dashboard is going to look like. If you have, hopefully this is pretty familiar for you. A few things that I want to point out is first and foremost, on this kind of centerpiece, this is going to be your calendar view. If you do prefer to see things in a schedule view or a list view, you can absolutely toggle those as such, and it'll show you the upcoming ones. So just in case you like those views better, just wanted to point that out to you. And if you are jumping around in the future, you can always click today to jump back to where you're at. I know that probably seems obvious, but just in case. Okay, so first things we want to dive into are events. I think events are kind of the foundation of everything that we do. If you're a marketer, you're probably marketing your event, whether that be a conference or a webinar like this, or if you're working with, some of your VIP customers, maybe some of those events. So whatever the event type, doesn't really matter. We're just going to dive in and create an example event together. So a couple of ways that you can create an event. You can first click this beautiful big create button and click on the event. Alternatively, you can click on the date if you want. Say this event is going to be next Thursday on the 17th. I can either do a single click and it'll pop up with a little box as such, or I can double click and it will take me to the full-on event creation editor. This is going to be the same thing that pops up when you do the create event button as well. So either way, you'll pop into here. Now, first things we want to do, give it a title. So Allie will say example marketing event. This is going to be externally facing. So whatever you have it be, just make sure it is something that you want others to see. And then what you can do also is change the little color of the event. It's going to be the color of the tile that pops up on the calendar. If that matters too, it might make sense when we kind of talk more about the subscription calendar and calendar marketing if you've got multiple different types of event. But for now, I'm going to leave this as orange because it is a nice and bright color for this gloomy day today, and it's spooky season. So go ahead and adjust your date and time as you might need. So I'm just going to say that this is a lunchtime event for an hour. You can, of course, do all day if it needs to be. Important thing to shout out here, reoccurring versus series. You'll see there's a little reoccurring checkbox here. This is going to basically be, if this event is on a reoccurring basis. So if you have something like a weekly webinar or a weekly Q&A session that you're promoting, you could use the custom reoccurrence here, and then this would repeat that every week on whatever date or every month or whatever the cadence is. And you can tell it how long, you want that to run. Thing to note about reoccurring events is that you basically are creating a copy and it's pasting just a visual of that event on all the future dates. So you're not able to edit those future date events without going back to the original event to edit it. And it's going to impact all of them. So if you have something like a weekly speaker series and you want to be able to change the speaker information and the description, all that, we would recommend using the event series. An event series is pretty similar in the sense that you can basically tell it the cadence that you want and the start and end dates. The difference here is that it's essentially going to set up individual events. They're not going to be basically a copy of that same event. It's going to be individual events. So if somebody wants to come to one of them, they can come to one. It's not going to put all of them on the calendar, just the one off. So just a little difference there. I know that sometimes is a little bit confusing. It took me a minute to get used to it. So no shame if you are on the same page. I'm going to, for now, just leave this example description. And then you can pop in a location if you want it to be a Google location. If you're doing a physical event, you can go ahead and add a custom address. And basically the reason you would want to do that is because this is going to be, when they add it to their calendar, it's going to actually pop up with that Google address or Maps address, so that it is all interactive and they don't have to worry about like copying and pasting that into their maps. Might not be an issue for you guys. Again, if you're doing virtual events, that's where you would also want to put like a Zoom link or something like that. And you can just pop that in there. Moving forward, we've got the contact information. So this is going to be just like the organizer information and the email address. This is just going to default to your user information, but you can absolutely change this. So we could say growth@addevent.com. This is not something that people can reply to. It's not going to go to whatever email that is, but it is nice if you're working with like executives, for example, and you're promoting like VIP events. You probably don't want it to come from Marissa Stone. It might be better to come from AddEvent Marketing for a more polished look. So all good there, not required, but it is sometimes nice to have depending on your guys' use case. And then the notification, just so you know, a lot of times people have notification preferences set within their own calendar settings. So that's going to be something that you can set, but it won't overwrite their original settings, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. If they don't have anything set, then the system, like their calendar system, will use whatever you put here. And then you can change if you've got multiple calendars, which calendar this event lives on. But for now, we're just going to leave it as example marketing calendar. So I'm going to hit create so we can jump on in. Once we are here, this is your event that's officially been created. The first thing that you'll notice is this top section just has kind of like a summary of all the fun stuff that you put in there. If you want to go back and change it, you made a mistake, you left something out, whatever, you can click edit and it will take you back to that event edit page. Scrolling on down, we've got our event landing page. So this is automatically created for you. This is super helpful because a lot of times us as marketers, especially if you're at a smaller company, you know this, you don't always have a designated resource to whip up a landing page for you, or you don't have a tool that you can use, or whatever it might be. So these landing pages are super, super helpful. We love them. You can totally customize them if you've got somebody who can do HTML. If not, then it's gorgeous as is. And we do have some templates that you can find in our help documentation if you're interested in maybe just copying something that we have. So with this, we've got the event page link. We also have a short link if you want to share this via like SMS or on social media. So those are kind of the two main ways to get to the landing page just from a link standpoint. Moving down, you can, of course, require an access code. So say you only want specific customers to get access to this, you can email them, the event page, and then say like the access code is VIP or whatever it might be. Not required. I typically don't use that, but if you are using or doing an event where you want extra level of security, that's totally good. Alternatively, if you're like just editing it and you don't want it to be seen by anybody yet, you can keep that access code on to kind of just add that level of security. If for some reason you send that to your sales team and then they get crazy and send it ahead of time. Not that that has ever happened. Other than that, I mentioned the event page, how we can customize it. That's like, this is the default one. You can use other templates. If you click custom templates here, then you can set up your own custom template. That is going to require some HTML and CSS. So definitely tap into any resources that you have. If not, like I said, we do have some helpful help documentation around setting up some templates. And if you want to change that template, you would just do it as such. I have no idea what color's template is. So if we change it, let's see what happens. Nothing because my internet's going slow today. Okay, we'll set it back then to maybe this one. Cool. Okay, so here we go. Now we've got a video header. Moving on down, we have our share methods. This is going to be probably the most important piece for all of our marketers. You want to make sure people are coming to your event. And so you want to, of course, share the event. So you've got a couple different methods. The first is, of course, setting out the link to that event landing page. That is, you can't go wrong with that. It's got all the information. However, if you do want to send out maybe an email, you probably have an email invitation or an email newsletter or doing some sort of email campaign. We've got these add to calendar links, which we highly recommend. We have a few different styles that are set up by default. These three right here, you can toggle through them. However, if those aren't meeting your needs, you can click our little new stylization button, and you can essentially specify like if you've got a brand color you want this to be so that all of them have the matching color. You can change the icons and text to have rounded edges, etc. Or you could just have it be just icon or just text or what have you. So you can save that configuration so that it's going to match whatever branding you have in your email. And then to put this into an email, essentially we would recommend that you just grab the click to view code, copy this code, and then paste it into your email editor. We do have this copy button here, but some of the email service or email automation tools, like for example, HubSpot, I know doesn't for some reason like when you paste it in that way. So if you are running into issues using this copy button, but not, you can go ahead and click into the source code, copy it here and paste it into your editor, and that will work for sure. So that's add to calendar links. Those are going to be for emails, for newsletters, campaigns, anything over email, right? We love those. They are fantastic. Then we have our add to calendar button. This is one of our most popular features as well. This is really good for websites, for landing pages, that good stuff. If you were to go and click the add to calendar button on the landing page, this is exactly what the add to calendar button looks like and how it interacts. You can embed this on your own website, your own landing page. If you do have those resources, if it's a big conference, you probably want that on your conference website, or if it's a one-off event on your landing page, what have you. So that is the add to calendar button. Similarly, you can, of course, customize this one too, and make it look however you'd like, blah, 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 blah. all that good stuff. And the same goes for how you would copy it here. I don't want to bore you guys. So moving on, you'll see your direct links. These are going to be basically all the links that are in these individual buttons or links here. The thing about these is we would recommend not using them unless you know what calendar provider your end user is using, because if you send somebody an Apple link and they are using Google Calendar, then it's not going to work for them. So direct links, please use with caution if you are going to use them. But we typically recommend the add to calendar links or buttons because that way people can forward the email or they can put it on their own personal calendar without having any of those hiccups and like having a bad user experience for your end user. And then lastly is the embeddable event. So this is honestly one of my favorite. I think it's so clean. It looks really nice. For this is where you'd put it on your landing page or your website. So similar to the button, except for this time, it's going to have kind of a little tile with that information, the description, the add to calendar button, the time, the location. And I just think this is really clean. It's really nice. Obviously, you can use just the button if that makes sense for you and your team. But if you're looking for a little bit more pizzazz, you can go with the embeddable event. So those are the different share options that we have. I do want to quickly edit this and show you guys for an RSVP event, since I think a lot of us marketers are typically using RSVP functionality. I know we do, for example, for our webinars, because we want to be able to ask questions or know who's coming, all that good stuff. So when you are creating or editing your event, you'll notice this little RSVP checkbox, and this is where you can essentially set up your RSVP event. So we have the standard RSVP. You can, similar to how you would create like a custom template, you could do the same thing where you can create other RSVP templates. So if you want to collect specific information, you can. Once I've made this an RSVP event, you'll notice that there's some slight differences here. The first thing is that we've got this cool RSVP settings section here. Basically, this is really, really important because this is where you'll find all of your RSVP information. Like I said, you can customize your RSVP form. So we've just got the standard one, which is email and name. But if you want to ask specific questions, you can add custom fields as you please. There are a ton of things you can do here. And we've got a bunch of videos and help documentation if you do run into any questions. Anyways, coming back to this RSVP setting, I'm going to go ahead and just RSVP to this event. You'll notice, actually, let me go back. You'll notice instead of the add to calendar button now, it's a respond button because we are collecting information. So I'm going to basically register that I'm going. My name is Marissa. My email is marissa.stone@addevent.com. And then I can, RSVP as such. If you want to have it collecting interested and can't go, that's also super helpful. Like if you're trying to get an accurate head count. So once you register, then you'll see that the page will refresh and you will have the add to calendar button now. I'll add that to my Google Calendar. It's going to open up Google Calendar for me and then put it on my calendar as the other add to calendar buttons would work. So when I refresh now, we can see that I am listed as an attendee. We can see my email, my name, which we've requested, and then we have some basic information that is collected. So IP address, city, region, etc. That is a setting. If you do want to turn that off, you can anonymize that data. I know this is really helpful sometimes with third-party vendors. We've seen customers who share their RSVP list and want to be able to do that without giving any PII away. So you can turn that off. Just make sure that you do so if that is a concern, because once you turn it off, it will basically, be that way for all the upcoming attendees that have registered. So the next thing is seats. So if you are doing a specific headcount, if it's a dinner, if it's a VIP event and you can only have 15 people, that's super important to limit that amount of seats. You can put a little message that shows up. And then if it's something more like a webinar where you're like, yeah, let's just do everything under the sun, give everybody and their mother an in, then that's great too. And then moving on to notifications, this is quite helpful. I mentioned before, sometimes people want to share their RSVP list with a vendor, whether it be like maybe a food vendor who needs to know the head count of people that have specialized meals, or if it's, a VIP wine tasting that you're doing virtually, you can send out the cheese and the wine, all that good stuff. So for the notification settings, you can either get an email whenever a new person RSVPs for an event. Might be excessive depending on the amount of people that you're expecting. You can do a summarized RSVP for the day. So at the end of the day, you'll get that email, or you can just have it, I'll check manually. You can send to multiple email addresses. And then This really handy link right here is the attendee list. So you can share this externally with whomever you like, and it's going to have that. So this is might be helpful if you don't want to send an email every single time, to share with your sales team, to share with your vendors, etc. The other thing to note here is if you refresh this, it's going to change the token for that. So then that link will no longer work. So if you are sharing that and for some reason somebody gets access to it that shouldn't, you can refresh it and make that list unavailable to them, but everybody else will need to get the new link. So I hope that's clear and helpful. And then lastly, for settings, you can make it inactive. So basically, once the RSVP window is closed, you can say, okay, and 2 hours before the event, we don't want to take any more RSVPs. Or if it's an event that's happened in the past, you'd be surprised how many times we see people RSVP for stuff that's happened in the past. You can make it inactive. It's totally up to you. Cool. So that is this RSVP section. You can also email attendees. So if you do have an update, for example, hey, the time has changed, or hey, the location's changed, or whatever, you can go ahead and send that email, subject line, content, whatever, and that will fly off. And then this all attendees button is going to take you to a similar list. It's not the external one, but it will be the same thing where you can kind of just have this view, and you can filter and download that list as well. Now, another thing that I didn't mention with the custom RSVP forms is that with the standard RSVP, it's going to send a confirmation email and a reminder email 2 hours before and a day before. And then it's not enabled for there to be a follow-up email. So that is something that you can customize. And when you create your new forms, you can specify the days before that you want to send the reminder and the hours before, as well as the follow-up email. So you've got some flexibility there with those custom forms. It is one of my favorite features, I think, not having to set up a reminder email outside of this and into, a different system like HubSpot or Salesforce. I'm just happy to have it all in one place and to cut out extra work. That is the main thing for RSVP settings. The next thing is that's different. We similarly have the landing page that's going to look the same, access code. Instead of that add to calendar button, now you're going to have the RSVP button. And this is really important because obviously you're collecting information. So this button, instead of doing just the direct add them to the calendar, this is going to take them to the landing page so that they can RSVP, with the information that's required. So that's going to be slightly different. Direct links function the same. And then the embeddable, instead of having just the embeddable event tile now, it is an embeddable RSVP form. I think this is really clean also. That way they can just basically fill out that information directly on your website, your landing page, wherever you've got them, so that you aren't, losing them to another page. And then once they fill that out, they get that add to calendar button. So I think that is so fantastic. And I'm such a fan of the embeddables. I think they're so clean. Okay, hopefully that is helpful. I'm going to pass over to Sam, who is going to talk through some of the calendar marketing stuff. This was all around event marketing. If you do have more questions, I see there's a couple on the QA, so I'm going to try to get to them while I pass over to Sam.
Perfect. All righty. So Marissa just went through the event side of things, but of course your events always need somewhere to live, which makes sense. They're going to live on your calendar, right? So when you go into the dashboard, obviously what you're seeing here is just kind of a full layout of your calendar. And we at AddEvent are super excited about the fact that calendars can be a new marketing channel, right? Like you've got your already pre-established marketing channels of like email platform, social platform, anywhere where you can grow an audience, right, is a really valuable channel for your business, whatever it might be. And we at AddEvent are so excited that now there is a solution for you to be able to make your calendar a brand new channel and kind of cut out the noise of what you're seeing on socials or email. I mean, if I get one more email in my inbox, like I'm going to lose it, right? You don't have that issue with your calendar because the people who are opting to see your events have already given you permission to appear on their calendar. And so you're essentially building this community in a brand new space. So before I get too ahead of myself, let me go back and just kind of show you how you can utilize our subscription calendars specifically for this type of community building. So This is your dashboard that has your calendar sitting here. If you want to create a new calendar, it's very similar to how you create a new event, which is just by clicking the create button. You can also very easily edit any of your calendars by clicking the three little dots. And you'll see the button that pops up for both your editing a calendar, or if you would like to share it, if you already have one that's been created and you can't remember how to go back and share. Those three little dots will give you those two options to be able to do one or the other. So let's create a new calendar together. So first things first, just like an event, you have to title your calendar. You'll see that when you create a brand new AddEvent account, you're already given a main calendar. You can update that name, but that will always be the one that when you log back in, it defaults to. So just be aware of that when you start to use calendars within the platform. So this is our marketing calendar. And on this calendar, we're going to put a bunch of upcoming events. You can put anything in the description. You can customize it just like you can with event landing pages. There are custom templates for you to be able to update the way that your calendar page looks too, how much of your upcoming events you want to show in a list form, that sort of thing. You can kind of get wild with it if you want. You want to make sure that you set the right time zone, that every event that now goes on this calendar is going to show up within that time zone. Of course, if, for example, Marissa lives on the West Coast, I live on the East Coast. If I subscribe to Marissa's calendar that has the time zone of the West Coast, when I put that event on my calendar, it's still going to render an East Coast time. So you don't have to worry about that when it comes to making sure your events are showing up at the right time for people. And then, like I said, standard template, you can have different event landing pages, like Marissa said, like different custom ones. And you can have kind of like every time there's a new event on this particular calendar, it will show up with this event landing page template. So that's what that means. If you want your week to start on a Sunday or a Monday, you can toggle that on here. You can update your color palette so that it matches your branding. We give you a default one that is pretty basic, but you can always go in and create a new one as well. And I know that we got a question earlier about importing like an external calendar, like having things live in Google Calendar, but work with AddEvent. There is a way to do that. You have to import the external calendar. It has to be a valid ICS. And then once you've added that, you can kind of have the two things sync up between your Google Mac calendar, whatever calendar that might be, and your AddEvent calendar. Um, Calendar subscribers. This is the exciting part, in my opinion. So very much like the RSVPs, when you have a calendar that you want to capture subscriber information, this allows people to follow your calendar essentially. So you can kind of think of it like on your social channels, somebody follows your page, they get all of your updates in their feed. Very similarly, when somebody subscribes to your calendar, all of a sudden when they log on to their Google Calendar, if they have it toggled on, your calendar toggled on, your events will appear in real time on their calendar. So for example, next week we have a webinar coming up. I just added it today, but you had already previously subscribed to my calendar. That webinar event would show up on your calendar the next time you log on and, took a look. You can either allow people to subscribe anonymously, or you can do just like an RSVP. You can capture people's information and add different custom fields for that. Of course, it's important to know that when you allow people to subscribe to your calendar anonymously, there is the drawback of not being able to remove people from your calendar. So they would have to self opt out of things. But I know we see like with some of our customers who are in like the coaching side of things, if they have to remove somebody from a calendar, it's impossible to do it if you did not collect their information. So just be forewarned, it's always better to collect more information than not, right? Especially as a marketer, we can always use that. So that is subscription calendars. So now that you've created your calendar, obviously I haven't put any events on it yet, but you can see over here on the left-hand side, like these are all the different calendars that I have. I want to make sure I'm on the right one before I start putting different events onto it. But if I want to share a calendar, we would go into the calendar page. Once again, it's going to look pretty familiar if you've already been making events. This is all the ways that you can decide to share the calendar that you just created. I'm showing you an example one just because it has a little bit more data in it already. But for example, we already have subscribers, right? And this one, these are anonymous subscribers. That's why we don't see any identifying information here. But just like your RSVPs, this is kind of where you can go through and, you know, see what you've got going on. Similarly, you get those URLs that you can share on socials. I don't know if anybody still sends out mass texts, but that's another way that you could be sharing these with people. You can also require an access code if this is a private calendar that you only want to send to a specific group of people. Just like the event, you can toggle that on or off. I mentioned earlier, we always allow you, if you're, on one of our paid plans, you can totally customize both your calendar and event landing pages to match your branding perfectly. And that is where you would do it here in the custom template section. Scroll down a little bit further, add calendar links. You should be familiar with these now that Marissa's gone through the event side of things. It's the exact same thing. You use your event calendar links specifically for like email newsletters and campaigns and things like that. Or if you want to use like an add to calendar button on a confirmation landing page or your website, that sort of thing, we also give you that option too. You can customize all of these to your heart's desire. Direct links, same warning as Marissa gave. These are, you can send them to somebody, but obviously, why not like make sure that everybody has access to it and that the button's not going to break by just sending an add calendar link instead, because that will cover all the different email platforms and or calendar platforms, so you don't have to worry about things not working perfectly. And then embeddable calendars. So this is super exciting. We kind of hinted at it earlier. These work great for both subscription calendars and also just like a regular calendar. If you have things coming up that you want to make sure live on your website, this is an awesome feature. People don't have to leave your website at all to see what you've got going on.
And
So
we've some
over,
really creative ways that people use this too. Like businesses that I wouldn't have thought about. For example, like we'll see like go-karting, we'll have their schedule of like, hey, it's typically busy at this time, so you want a reservation. So that's a really good way to do it. I've seen like wedding venues say like, okay, that we're already booked this weekend so that people know when they're inquiring. And then obviously the more traditional side of things like B2B, like, okay, these are our webinars coming up, these are our speakers coming up, these are the conferences we're going to be at, that kind of stuff. So there's so many different ways to use it.
oh my gosh, yeah. And I think we've seen it a ton recently with like retail brands using calendars, subscription calendars, particularly to like announce different drops that they're doing and that sort of thing. So the sky's the limit really for what you could end up utilizing this for. And the
Yeah.
fact lives on your website, I know is so valuable because the second somebody hops off your website, you have the chance to lose them to the rest of the great world web. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to keep them in one place and give them all the information that they need to make a decision, we're all for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then similarly, if you don't want the whole calendar to be rendered on your website, we also give you the option for an embeddable events list that will just list all of your upcoming events as they go. And of course, you can customize those to match your branding so it doesn't look like, just a giant white square in the middle of your beautiful website. It can very seamlessly fit in. So that is calendars and calendar marketing. Marissa, is there anything else that you feel like we need to add about that side of things?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. The only other thing that I was going to just share is not around the subscription calendars, calendar marketing, but around automated events, add to calendar events. I know there's not a place in the dashboard for this, so it's not as pretty and fun to share. So I just briefly want to talk through it for anybody who is interested and is in kind of like a more appointment-based industry. Like we see a lot of, for example, auto shops or doctors or salons, any place where basically people are booking an appointment and there's revenue associated with that. We do have automated add to calendar functionality. And what that is going to do is it's going to allow you to basically automate and add it to either your website or to an email where it's dynamically giving them an add to calendar link for their appointment or an add to calendar button for their appointment. So if you guys are interested in that, again, it's not necessarily visually in the app, so it's not as fun and exciting to share, but I've just popped the link in the chat. Just in case people are curious, I'll share my screen. It's under the documentation for developers section. And I just think it is so helpful. I mean, I know anything revenue based, people want to make sure you're showing up. And I know if it's not on my calendar, as everybody knows, it is not happening. So did just want to briefly shout that one out. If you do have questions about that and want additional information, you can reach out to support@addevent.com. You can also do that for any general questions. I know somebody had asked a question about that
Yeah.
in the chat. I just didn't have a chance to respond to it. So other than that, we are basically done with what we wanted to cover. Did just want to say there is some features that we talked about, for example, any custom templates, stuff like that, that does require being on a paid plan. If you guys are interested in testing out that functionality, feel free to email trial@addevent.com and we can set you up with a 7-day free trial. If that is of interest, obviously, if not, you can still do a ton in the app without that. So thank you all for attending. Stay tuned for that follow-up email from us. We'll have a recording of this so you can look back on it. And, if you need to get any questions answered, again, support is your place to go. But if not, we are so excited to see how you guys use AddEvent for marketing. And if you are so inclined to ask any marketing specific questions, you can also reach out to marketing@addevent.com if you just want to talk through different marketing ideas that you might have. So awesome. Thank you all so much for joining on this lovely Wednesday morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
That's perfect. Thank you guys so much. And like Marissa said, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email us at support@addevent.com. And stay tuned for that email. We will follow up with you guys and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.